Today, we're gonna drive the Bugatti Chiron for the first time since the accident.
Bugatti spent millions trying to stop him. Matt Armstrong spent that time building his own car brand. And 1 minute ago, he showed the world what he built. 1 minute ago, Matt Armstrong launched his own car brand. And Bugatti CEO is sitting in Motium right now with absolutely nothing to say. Because this was not supposed to happen. None of it was supposed to happen. Not the Bugatti rebuild. Not the Koenigsegg contact. Not the open factory doors. And definitely not this. A YouTuber from Leicester. A former BMX rider who taught himself mechanics in his father's garage. A man who Bugatti locked out, blocked, refused, and publicly opposed at every single turn. That man just launched his own car brand. And the automotive world has completely stopped. Let that land for a full second. Because the journey from buying a crashed Bugatti Chiron on Copart to launching an independent car brand is not a journey that anyone drew a map for. It is not a journey that anyone in the automotive industry would have predicted was possible from that starting point. It is not a journey that Bugatti, in their worst nightmare scenario for how the Matt Armstrong situation could develop, ever wrote into their risk assessment. Because launching a car brand is what manufacturers do, what institutions do, what companies with decades of engineering heritage and billions of capitalization and armies of qualified engineers and established supply chains do. It is not what YouTubers do. It is not what independent rebuilders do. It is not what the man you try to stop with a locked VIN and a parts refusal and a CEO statement is supposed to do next. And yet here we are, 1 minute ago. Matt Armstrong, his own car brand, and an industry that has absolutely no framework for what comes next. But to understand why this moment is so massive, why it is not just a business story or a YouTube story or even an automotive story, but something that sits at the intersection of all three in a way that changes all three permanently, you need to understand the full art of everything that brought Matt Armstrong to this point. Because launching a car brand does not happen in a vacuum. It does not happen without a foundation, and the foundation that Matt Armstrong has built, brick by brick, project by project, video by video, is one of the most extraordinary foundations any individual has ever constructed in the automotive world. Not because of the money, not because of the infrastructure, but because of the thing that no amount of money can buy and no amount of infrastructure can create. The trust of an audience so large, so engaged, so genuinely invested in everything he does that whatever he points that audience toward becomes immediately significant. And he just pointed it toward a car brand. Think about what that means in practical terms. Because the automotive industry runs on attention, on desire, on the ability to make people want something so badly that they will pay extraordinary amounts of money to have it. And attention, desire, the ability to make millions of people want something, is exactly what Matt Armstrong has in quantities that established manufacturers spend decades and billions trying to build. Bugatti has it because of 90 years of history and racing heritage and engineering mythology. Koenigsegg has it because of record-breaking performance and obsessive engineering purity. And Matt Armstrong has it because he showed millions of people the truth, the unglamorous, difficult, honest truth of what these cars are and what it takes to bring them back when they break. And truth, in a world saturated with carefully managed brand narratives and aspirational marketing and images of perfection, is the most powerful attention generator there is. Matt Armstrong built his audience on truth, and now he is building a car brand on the same foundation. But here is what nobody knew was coming. Here is the detail that makes this launch so much more than just a business announcement. Here is the thing that changes the context of everything that happened between Matt Armstrong and Bugatti and reframes the entire conflict in a light that nobody was prepared for. Matt Armstrong's car brand is not a merchandise line. It is not a lifestyle brand that happens to use automotive imagery. It is not a parts supplier or a workshop franchise or any of the logical extensions of what is built that the automotive community might have predicted. It is a car brand, a real one with a real car, a vehicle designed from the ground up, engineered with genuine intent, built on everything Matt Armstrong learned from every car he has ever touched, and aimed directly at the gap in the market that is rebuilds exposed. The gap between what the ultra-premium automotive world offers and what the people who genuinely love cars, who understand them mechanically, who want more than just a badge and a price tag, actually want from a driving machine. That gap is real. Matt Armstrong knows it better than anyone alive, and he just built something to fill it. Now let us talk about Bugatti CEO. Because mate Rimac's position in this moment is one of the most fascinating and complicated positions any automotive executive has occupied in recent memory. Because Rimac is not a simple villain in this story. He never was. He is a builder who became a CEO. A man who created extraordinary things with his own hands before he became responsible for creating extraordinary things through the hands of others. And when Matt Armstrong, another builder, another man who creates extraordinary things with his own hands, launches a car brand, Rimac understands something about that moment that a purely corporate executive could not fully appreciate. He understands the audacity of it, the scale of the ambition, the specific combination of skill and courage and accumulated knowledge that a move like this requires. And understanding it, respecting it at some level, makes his position simultaneously more complicated and more interesting than a simple corporate rival could ever be. Because the question Rimac now faces is not how to compete with Matt Armstrong. It is how to relate to a world where Matt Armstrong is no longer just a rebuilder, but a manufacturer, a peer, an equal in the only arena that matters in the automotive world, the arena of making cars. But here is what nobody is talking about yet. Here is the conversation that is happening behind closed doors in boardrooms across the automotive industry right now that has not made it into the public conversation. Matt Armstrong's car brand changes the right to repair argument permanently, because right to repair, as a legislative and cultural movement, has always been about the relationship between manufacturers and the owners of their products, about what happens after the point of sale, about who gets to control and repair and modify the things that people buy. And that argument, however powerful, however well supported by public sentiment and legislative momentum, is fundamentally reactive. It is a response to what manufacturers do. It exists in the space that manufacturers create and then try to control. But Matt Armstrong car brand changes the entire framework, because now Matt Armstrong is not just responding to what manufacturers do. He is doing it himself. He is making the thing. He is setting the terms. He is deciding what kind of relationship exists between a manufacturer and the people who buy and own and love and inevitably need to repair their cars. And the answers he gives to those questions, embedded in the design and the business model and the culture of his brand from the very beginning, are going to be the most powerful statement about right to repair that the movement has ever produced. Not a legislative argument, not a YouTube rebuild. A car, his car, built on his terms, and available to anyone who wants one. Now let us talk about what the launch actually looked like. Because the moment Matt Armstrong revealed his car brand to the world was not a conventional automotive reveal. It was not a Geneva Motor Show presentation with a velvet rope and a rotating platform and a carefully choreographed unveiling sequence. It was not a press release sent to automotive journalists at 6 a.m. It was not a billboard campaign or a television commercial or any of the tools that established manufacturers use when they want the world to pay attention to something new. It was a video. Naturally, a video made with the same honesty and transparency and directness that every Matt Armstrong video has always had. No mystique, no artifice, no carefully constructed reveal narrative designed to build desire through exclusivity. Just Matt Armstrong talking to his audience the way he has always talked to his audience. Directly, honestly, with a specific kind of respect for their intelligence that has always defined the relationship between him and the millions of people who choose to spend their time with his content. And in that directness, in that honesty, in that refusal to dress up something real in the clothes of something manufactured, the launch was more powerful than any conventional automotive reveal could have been, because it was true. And true, as Matt Armstrong has always known, is the most powerful thing you can be. The response in the automotive community was immediate and overwhelming and divided in exactly the ways that the most significant moments in the story have always divided it. On one side, the believers, the people who had followed every chapter of the Matt Armstrong journey and who received the car brand announcement not as a surprise, but as an inevitability. The logical conclusion of a trajectory that had been pointing in this direction, since the moment a man from Leicester decided that a crashed Bugatti Chiron was an opportunity rather than a write-off. On the other side, the skeptics. The people who respect what Matt Armstrong has achieved as a rebuilder, but who look at the challenge of launching a car brand, of actually designing and engineering and manufacturing and distributing and supporting a vehicle, and see a gap between what is proven and what a car brand requires that cannot be closed by reputation and audience alone. And between those two sides, the vast majority of the automotive community is sitting with the same feeling that the most genuinely exciting automotive announcements always produce, a feeling of not knowing, of genuine uncertainty about whether this will work, of caring about the outcome in a way that makes the uncertainty feel important rather than uncomfortable. That feeling, that specific combination of excitement and uncertainty and genuine investment in what happens next, is the rarest and most valuable thing a car brand can create in its audience, and Matt Armstrong created it in his first video. But here is the detail about the car itself that silenced the skeptics, at least temporarily, because the car Matt Armstrong revealed was not a concept, not a render, not a design study or a vision or a statement of intent dressed up as a product announcement. It was a real car, a physical object that existed in 3 dimensions in the real world, that had been designed and engineered and built with Matt Armstrong's direct involvement at every stage, not outsourced to a design house and presented as his vision, actually built by someone who has spent years understanding at the deepest practical level what makes a car work and what makes a car feel right, and what the people who genuinely love driving actually want from the machines they choose to spend their time in. And the car that emerged from that understanding, from all those years of taking broken things apart and putting them back together and learning the most direct possible way what matters and what is not, was something that the automotive community looked at and felt something very specific, something that the most successful car launches always produce, and that most car launches fail to produce entirely. They felt like they wanted one. Now let us address the question that everyone in the automotive industry is now asking about Matt Armstrong's car brand and what it means for the established players in the space. Because the question is not whether this brand will succeed. That question will be answered over time by the cars themselves and the people who buy them and the community that forms around them. The question that matters right now, the question that has automotive executives and brand managers and product planners in boardrooms across Europe and America genuinely unsettled, is what this brand represents as a signal. Because Matt Armstrong's car brand is not just a car brand. It is a proof of concept, a demonstration